warm up, damsel, ready to go. I'm going to get started. Hi, this is Millenia Gordon. Welcome to this episode of Shift. I'm your host, and today we are featuring a gentleman that illustrates something that I'm big on, which is the power of words. I entitled it, He Said It, or if you want to call it podcasting, Dom Brighmon. He hails from Washington, Maryland, correct?
Baltimore, but I'm close to
Baltimore,
Washington.
Maryland. But his book is called Going North. And it wasn't something that was intentional, but I believe he'll correct me or he'll tell you the story, not to steal his thunder. But people would ask him, hey, well, how's it going? And he goes, going north. And next thing you know, that became the title of his book. That became the title that is his podcast. So we're going to meet with Dom and find out more about podcasting. For those of you, many of you have questions like myself, like, oh my God, what is this thing? I'm just getting comfortable with the computer and you're throwing me something else. So with that, welcome our guest, Mr. Dom Brighmon, all the way from Baltimore, Maryland. And Dom, thank you for joining us on Shift today. We really appreciate your time. We know time is our most precious commodity. It's the one thing we cannot regain once it's gone. And you're giving that to us. So greatly, greatly appreciated. Welcome, and just tell us about who you are.
Well, thanks a bunch, Palmonia. It's great to be on the show with you. And you got on one of my favorite colors, blue, so this is going to be even better.
Oh, thank
Not
you.
butter. But yeah, a little bit about myself. I am a best-selling millennial author of the book called Stay the Course, The Elite Performer's 7 Secret Keys to Sustainable Success, in addition to Going North, Tips and Techniques to Advance Yourself. Hosted the Going North podcast. It was one of the top 10 self-help podcasts in 2018. It was listed alongside Brenda Bouchard, Lewis Howes, Gretchen Rubin, and Steve Olsher. And that was one of the biggest blessings last year. And certified John Maxwell coach, that was a newly added thing. So I'm a big fan of John Maxwell, and it's great to be one of his legacy legs, as he likes to say, because his content is great. The people that you meet in the program, they're great people. They're great folks. Quite a few in Maryland. And I just love helping people. I love just being able to use what God has given me to try to get the most I can out of life.
Awesome. I love the fact that you said you like being able to use what you've been given. I was at an event yesterday called the Woman in Fire event, where we nominate various women from single mom, lifetime achievers, meaning somebody that's a senior who still works and thrives in the community. And that was the theme of that, everybody that went up was saying, getting to that place where they recognize I need to be operating and living in my purpose, what my gifts are. So your gift is making people laugh, making the Tigger sound. What exactly?
Yeah, humor is something I acquired over the past few years, because as a speaker, you got to keep folks engaged and entertained if you're going to inform them effectively. So one book I recommend, especially if you're in the speaking field or heck, if you're a manager, is Do You Talk Funny? And one of the things it mentions is just to practice humor, and I practice humor every day of my life. I mean, not all jokes are going to fly, not all of them are going to hit, but just keep going with it, and eventually you'll be able to polish them and sharpen them up and be able to add them into your presentations. I mean, I torture just about everybody, from podcast guests to my colleagues, with whether it's bad puns or dad jokes, and sometimes it'll be so off the wall out of nowhere, they'll be like, what in the world are you doing, man? But yeah, that's one of the gifts, and folks have been telling me for years I got this radio voice, so it's like, hey, I mean, might as well use it. So a podcast is a great way to do that, and this is the time to do it, because I was listening to, I think it was Heather Havenwood. I think she has a CEO podcast, and she was doing a show with Erica Glessing, and she mentioned how every speaker should have a podcast. And I'm like, you know what?
Wow.
I'm glad I got one now after hearing that, because it's like, it's the new social media, some people say, because a lot of folks, they're not watching cable television, especially
Yes.
nowadays where folks are tired of advertisements. I mean, heck, with YouTube and everything, and it's still great. Folks are going to YouTube, going to Netflix, go to Amazon Prime, TV, YouTube, their own podcast, and there's so many out there now compared to 10 years
Absolutely.
ago. It's like, I mean, yeah, more people know about podcasting, but there's still a big portion of folks, especially in America, that don't know what a podcast is. So I like to tell folks, I like to sell it as a lazy person's radio station because you get to choose the content and it can be pre-recorded. It doesn't have to be live. You can just
Yes.
upload it whenever. But it'll be best to just stay consistent with it because that's how both you and I were able to connect. After a while, it's like being able to be consistent with what you're doing and just connecting with people. You eventually get to connect with awesome people all over the world that you wouldn't be able to connect with 10 or 15 years ago because technology has gotten so much smoother now.
Hmm.
It's not just Skype and just recording through there. We got Zoom now, which you're using this for. And
Absolutely.
just being able to, especially with social media too, being able to put yourself out there and cost at a huge rate. I mean, it gives you that slight edge in a way. Just that book in the car, just had to point that out along with order it.
All
And like,
right.
yeah,
That's my
yeah, and
personal favorite, actually. This is the one that I read in December 2014 that
oh, yeah.
had me taking the edge because I had never known about it. And literally after reading this book was when I made certain decisions and that slight edge effect came in, which is, it's good to have because as you said, doing it and being consistent, that's literally what the book teaches you, right? And for many of us, we believe that there's something magical that happens, not recognized. I heard you say, you're with, Brandon Bouchard and these guys that we figure are up there, but it's your slight edge that allows you that advantage. It doesn't, a plane does not take off and go straight up. It doesn't
Yep.
take off like a rocket. And even a rocket, when you watch, it may go up to launch, but then it angles and gradually goes up. So I'm glad that, you have made that um, reference, because for our community or, or people, they hear you say it. It's kind of like talking to your own children or your parents talking to you. It's like, yeah, ma, yeah. But then somebody else says, it's like, really? In the back of your mind, you might go, oh, my mom says that all the time. And you didn't really know it was such a thing, right? Um,
Yep.
how has podcasting changed your life?
Podcasting changed my life in multiple ways. It allowed me to not only further promote my book because that was one of the goals back in 2017 when I started it, and it's a huge way of connecting with others. I mean, being able to connect with folks in Australia and New Zealand out of nowhere is one heck of a thing, and being able to interview them and just learn that, hey, we're all connected. We're all of one mind, believe it or not, because especially if you're on a growth trail and you want to help others to grow. And it's also personal and professional development tool as well because
Mm,
you're talking with folks, you get to hear things that you probably wouldn't really hear as quickly as you would on your own because one guy I heard, he by the name of Dr. Jeff Standridge, and he wrote this book called The Top Performers Field Guide as well as the Innovators Field Guide.
mhm,
And he was talking about customer development.
mm,
And I was like, customer development? I heard of customer acquisition. I've heard of customer service, but I never heard of customer development. And he was talking about how with his book, or at least there's two books, he interviewed a bunch of ladies and got their feedback on what would they like to see in a book because even though guys still read, women are still the ones that buy the books and read most majority of the books out there.
absolutely.
And he just basically queried them and got feedback, and he wrote two best-selling books because he basically developed his customer ahead of time by just asking questions.
Here with Mr. Dom Brighmon, all the way from Baltimore, sharing on podcasting. Get the tip? And if what you have learned so far has been helpful and impacting, please remember Leave us a comment, subscribe, like, and share the information. But most of all, like the second hand on the clock, keep taking those 60 tiny moves that you can come back tomorrow. God bless you. We love you. Have a good day.